Hello and welcome everyone to another exciting edition of the Magic Sandwich Show. I think it's number 82, although how accurate that is, I don't know. It's a huge pleasure to be welcomed by Hogtie-chan and Concordance. And we've got some interesting topics that I hope that you will try and engage us with. They include, well, we're going to start off with a Concordance quiz, which I'm quite looking forward to. He gave me notice about this only about three minutes ago. But I think it could be quite fun. We're then going to move on to the abuse of children and religion's abuse of children, a topic which is very much close to my heart, and I think also Concordance's, and I have no doubt Hogtie's as well. And hopefully it's an issue that should interest you as well. Then with our third topic, there is no true Christian. The arguments within the religious about who is a true Christian or religious person or otherwise, and then we may, if we have time, move on to issues about the origins of life. But as we did in the last show, and as I intend to do in this show, we will be keeping the show to within a 2-hour limit. So 3-4 hour shows that we used to do and the overruns that we used to have, I'm sorry, we're not doing that anymore. So if you would want to be involved in the show, please do so within the next 2 hours. And you can do it in a number of ways. You can do so by sending a Skype contact request to Magic Sandwich Show. Include, please, the gist of the topic or conversation that you'd like to talk about, and we'll get you on live. Alternatively, there is an option wherever you're watching this, I presume on YouTube, there should be a symbol, top right, maybe top left, not too sure, that it says Q&A. And in fact, I did say I would open that up. So let me just do that now. If you click on that, you'll be able to post a question without actually appearing live, and we invite questions. Please, though, be restrictive on comments that you might want to make on that. And I have to say that I'm not actually sure. Let me click it again. Oh yeah, I've got Q&A up. Please restrict it to questions as opposed to comments. I will be reading the questions, and I will post them to the appropriate person. We will discuss them. We're going to, as I say, we're going to kick off with a concordance quiz.
Can I interrupt briefly, just with regard to callers? I'm sorry to do that, but just with regard to callers, if we do get to this topic today about what defines, what sets out in Scripture what a real Christian is, I would ask the theists who are watching so far, don't leave it up to a bunch of non-believers to help the audience come to this understanding. If you feel you've got a solid lock on what Scripture says a Christian is, get that Skype contact request in, and let us know that you want to come in and help us come to grips with that.
Yes, thank you very much, Hogtie. And I'll just sort of like reiterate that, and I'll also close my window because I realise there's some background noise coming from me. We do appreciate calls from the religious of whatever denomination. We're interested to know what you believe and why you believe it, and to discuss such topics. And particularly given the panel that we have today, I can assure you that you will be treated with courtesy. So if you are a religious person and you'd like to discuss any of the issues that we have, please send a contact request, as I say, to Magic Sandwich Show on Skype, and we'll see if we can get you on. But as I say, we're starting with something that I was not prepared for, but I think could be a great deal of fun, and that is Concordance's Daily Mail quiz. I'll let him explain.
So I found myself looking through some Daily Mail articles because they were hits in an internet search, and I mean, I've heard the reputation of the Daily Mail for not being terribly accurate source of news. DPR and I were looking up the circulation. 1.7 million people get their news from the Daily Mail. And it's hard enough for reputable newspapers to get science headlines correct to actually represent what's being discovered. So what I've got here are 10 headlines Some of them are from the Daily Mail.
Can I just pause you very, very briefly? And I'm sorry, I'm so sorry to interrupt. For those that are not aware, the Daily Mail is a newspaper that is published in the United Kingdom, and Concordance rightly said it's got a circulation of around 1.7 million. Our best selling newspaper, and it doesn't give me any pride to say this, is The Sun, which is a Rupert Murdoch-owned newspaper, and has just over 2 million. So the Daily Mail has a very large circulation in the United Kingdom. I just wanted to clarify that in case anyone was not aware of the Daily Mail. Sorry, Concordance, do carry on.
But so many people have sent me articles recently, from this or that, the Guardian, and I'm always sort of a little bit aghast at what happens when you compare even good science reporting to the actual scientific paper. Subtle changes in the way the words are used change the meaning of the research. So I'm just going to go right at it. I've made up a few of these, and I've got some of these are actual Daily Mail headlines from recent Daily Mail headlines. Now, it's possible the made-up articles that I've come up with will also have been Daily Mail articles accidentally, but that's just because they could basically say anything we would never know. Okay, so you can play along out there if you want to, guess before I reveal. But I'll read the statement and then I'll reveal after a short pause and a poll of the panel here. So here's the first one. Men with wide faces earn thousands more than narrow-headed men. So what do you think, DPR? Daily Mail or made up?
I know that there have been reports relatively recently about the income that is made by tall people compared to short people. And the study came out saying that short people tended, on the whole, to have a lower income than tall people. I'm not sure about wide faces, though. I'm just trying to figure out whether that would fit into any sort of psyche that I could understand. I have to say that on wide faces, I would actually say yes. That is a true story.
You mean Daily Mail? Daily Mail, not made it up.
Yeah.
Right. So what do you think, Hogtie?
What's this? Well, I like that you asked DPR first because it gives me time to cheat and Google it in the background.
Oh,
so
no, that's not...
No!
No. Okay, sorry. I don't understand how we're answering. You said yes. Like we're supposed to say, is it like real
Daily
science
Mail or made up?
Mail?
Those are your two answers. Daily Mail or made up?
Daily Mail or made up? I'm not.
I want to clarify my answer. I think I don't know. It seems an odd way of defining it. I think that is probably true.
Oh, I get what you're saying. You're saying, is this a real Daily Mail story or something you
one that I came up with?
To mock the Daily Mail story.
I'm sorry. I totally misunderstood. Let me retract then.
It's Balderdash now. Okay.
Did the Daily Mail report that? Yes or no?
Yes. Right.
I am still going to say yes.
Yes, actual Daily Mail story.
Yes, it is in fact a Daily Mail story. A 1,200-pound difference per year for men with wide faces. Now, of course, they could have divided them into men with large earlobes or men with broad noses.
I was just going to invite you.
You could define anything, and there's going to be a larger and a smaller group. Okay.
Yeah, but how did they define wide? Did they actually?
Oh,
is it proportional or is it?
Feel free to dig in deeper. My guess is that the study said nothing of the sort. Nothing of the sort.
Okay, so right. Hang on, Hogtie and I.
Yep, we got to keep score.
We've got 1 point each. We've both got that one right. Okay, next one.
All right. People who live within 10 miles of the sea have more sexual prowess than landlubbers.
Definitely. We should alternate who answers first. Now DPR can cheat.
Go ahead, Hogtie.
Definitely a Daily Mail story. For real.
I'm going to say it's not. I don't know why. It doesn't for me have a Daily Mail feel about it.
Okay, that's one I made up.
Oh, really?
But I think maybe Hogtie and I think alike. That sounds like the kind of thing they would say.
Yeah, sexual prowess, something something, sexual prowess, something something,
Yeah.
Daily Mail. That's where I went with that.
All right, so now we got 100%. 2 points for DPR. 1 point
All
for
right,
Hogtie.
don't worry, I'm keeping the score. Yeah. Okay, third one.
All right, third one. Black people age more quickly than white and are 3 years older biologically.
No, absolutely not. That is not a Daily Mail story.
I'll say yes. That's a Daily Mail. That's yes.
Okay, it is in fact a Daily Mail headline.
No.
Just enough.
Okay.
Just enough of a WTF aspect to it. You're like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
They're biologically.
Yeah, what does it mean to be
older?
3 years older biologically and aging more quickly than white people?
I mean, I have to say that it sounded so ridiculous. I thought not even the Daily Mail would try to run a story like that. That's why I said no. Okay.
That's where you fell. That's where you fell.
Yeah,
you shouldn't have.
I should read
It's
more.
like the Poe's Law, right? There's nothing they could come up with that
Yeah.
would say that's too much.
Okay.
All right, let's move on to number 4. I hope you're keeping score, DPR.
I am. It's 2-all.
All right. Scientists reveal how string theory could make you a better guitarist.
My turn. I'm going to go with. That's a toughie. It's just stupid enough. I'm going to go with no. Not a Daily Mail. You made that up.
I'm going to go with yes.
Wow, you guys just really disagree with each other.
It's strategic.
That is, in fact, a Daily Mail headline. I think I quoted that one word for word. Word for word. And string theory was in quotes. All right.
Read it and weep, Hogtie.
All right, number 5. New device allows restyling of hair using only static electricity.
Oh, I think it's me to go first on this one, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, it's difficult, isn't it? And it's just I'm just going to have to guess. Yeah, I can see that they would have come up with that, but I'm on this one. I'm going to say no. Oh shit! I should say yes. No, I'll say it was my first choice. I'm going to say no.
Yeah, I'll tell you what makes this game hard. It's not trying to divine the level and nature of absurdity over the Daily Mail. It's trying to divine what goes on in Concordance's head when when he reads the pseudoscience nonsense.
I think I have a career ahead of me with the Daily Mail. Because if you guys can't tell the difference, then that means that I could just slip right into that job and no one would know the difference.
Yeah. Again, that's so bizarre, using only static electricity. Like, would you have thought of that? Certainly the Daily Mail would have. Yeah, I'm going to say that was a real thing. Beyond the limits of Concordance's imagination.
I can't remember what I decided. Did I say
Well, make your decision now.
I'm going to say no. I'm going to say no.
You did say no, but you can stick with it, sure.
Okay, I made that one up. And
How?
Hogtie, really, don't limit my imagination. I can come up with all sorts of stuff. As far as I know, they have not reported on a new device that allows restyling of hair using only static electricity.
Ah.
All right, let's move on to 6. Child sex robots are being used to treat pedophiles, like methadone for drug addicts. Ooh.
No way.
Yes, definitely. Yes, definitely.
Wow, you sound like you have personal experience, DPR.
Oh, let's not drag up this
The court
5-year-old myth.
So we have answers from both of you?
Yes, I think that is a Daily Mail story. Yes.
No, you made that up. That's too bizarre.
That is a Daily Mail headline.
I'm like 3 down now or something.
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
4-2 down, Hogtie.
All right, this is going to be a tough one.
I think it's 5-2.
Dinosaurs may have played games with each other, scientists say.
That's racist. I'm just stealing your joke.
That is racist. Yeah, that is racist.
Whose turn is it to go first?
I forgot.
Deep,
It's my turn
ahead,
this
Deep.
time. I think
Oh, okay.
I thought it was Hoptai, yeah.
Well, the last time DPR answered both first and last. I think that is a real Daily Mail headline. And I was going to say, welcome back to the Dino Scientist avatar, by the way. We forgot to mention that last week.
Yeah.
I think
I'm going to, not because I know that if I say the same answer as Hoptai from now on in, I've already won the game.
Win. Yes.
I'm actually going to agree with him because I actually think that is definitely a Daily Mail story.
It is not. I made that one up. I don't know how he would possibly know that. I don't. But,
That doesn't matter to the Daily Mail.
All right, so we're at 8.
8, okay.
All right. This one should be easy. This high-tech hamster wheel cleans your clothes using energy generated as you run.
Sorry, is it okay to ask you to repeat it? Is that
This
allowed in the rules of your
high-tech
game?
hamster wheel cleans your clothes using energy generated as you run.
And it's me to go first. I'm going to say that's a true story.
Yeah, I'm going to say true.
You're both correct. And there's a picture of a very happy person in perfectly clean clothes running in a hamster wheel.
Okay.
All right. Number 9. Why are people from Denmark so happy? It's all in their DNA.
Sorry, it's Hoptai.
It's on their DNA. That's just so dumb. That's the kind of headline that frustrates you more than... I'm going to say that's true. Sure, Daily Mail, yeah.
Okay, I'm going to give Hoptai a chance to catch up, even though I think I'm in an insane position. I'm going to say that that's wrong because I don't think the average Daily Mail reader has any interest in DNA. So I'm saying that is
or
Danes.
Norway? Or Danes, yeah.
Denmark. I'm sorry, that is actually a Daily Mail headline.
Oh, you've caught up by one, but I think
and that's one that was sent to me, and it's so not anything close to what the actual study was saying, which was about like severe depression, not about average happiness. All right. Well, we're down to number 10. So where's our score so far? Is it even close?
I think it's 6-4, which means that.
Well, no, because the 10th question obviously should be worth double.
Okay.
It's like the big, the big grand, yeah.
All right.
I'm
this is going to be one of the hardest ones in the entire set. So, you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Number 10. Chocolate cures baldness, according to new study. Ooh, that's a tough one.
No, and it's Hoptai to go first, isn't it?
Well, actually, since you have more points, I think really it's leaders on.
We're making the rules up as we go along.
What I really regret is that the answer to this question was pretty much given to me by Concordance prior to the show when he said, I've got 10 statements, 6 of which are true, and I can't now remember how many statements we had. If I'd kept count of it, I would definitely have won this. Sorry, chocolate cures baldness. Yes, that is a Daily Mail story.
It makes so little sense from whatever drugs are actually in chocolate.
You've got to say no. Your only chance of winning is saying no.
I'm going to play strategic. The thing is, I actually think
it's not even winning.
No.
Your only chance of drawing is by saying no.
Yeah, that's right. I'm going to say no. Just strategic no.
All right. As far as I know, that never appeared in the Daily Mail headline. But that means we're at a draw now, right?
Yeah.
But it's quite clear to everybody watching, I absolutely weaseled my way to a draw with random rule changes through questions 8, 9, and 10.
Yeah,
all right.
Don't worry
Let me
about
come up
that.
with real quick, okay? How about this one? Would you eat lab-grown cheese? Vegan substitute created without milk is made from protein genes. Come on, they're doing that all the time. That's bound to be real.
Yeah, but sure, that's one of the questions. I thought you were asking me if I'd eat that cheese. Yeah, but sure, I'd buy that's a Daily Mail story.
And because I'm uncertain and don't want to lose, I'm going to say yes
All right.
as well. So we're going to have another tiebreaker.
All right. Never mind. Let's go ahead and we'll call it a tie. You guys are both awesome.
Okay. Thank you.
Daily
That was
Mail's
fun. And I
terrible.
apologize because I've been looking at the Q&As and not people's comments. But yeah, there we go. There was one that was actually for you, Concordance. Oh, yes. I'm going to take this one. Select this one. It's addressed to... hang on. No, that's not what I... That's not what I... Oh, yeah. Hang on. Are you inviting more people? I'd like to ask the Dino. I don't know who that is. Is that you, Concordance?
I don't know.
Some questions concerning my future major. Dragnet, we'll bring you in due course. Can you send a Skype contact request? I probably have you, I know, but send another one just in case, and we'll get you on. Second question, which has got +4 votes up, so I think it's only fair that we take that. Are you guys going to discuss the Matt Dillahunty, Cy Ten Bruggencate debate? My first question to both of you is, did you watch the full debate? Hogtie?
3 times.
Three times?
3 times, sure did. Yes, I did.
Concordance, did you watch it?
No, just the intro part. This
Okay.
first few minutes. It got
In
really
that
boring
case-
after a while.
Yeah. In that case, Hogtie, I'm obviously going to go to you. What were your thoughts about it?
How nice is our audience that they've let us get away with this for how many weeks now? That this is like the big news that was going on like a month and a half ago. We haven't said a word about it on the show. Oh, surely they're going to talk about it this week. It was interesting. It's funny. I posted a similar comment about a sort of some drama issue on G Plus today about a very, very strange attitude that the radical evangelicals have about the nature of conversation and debate. There seems to be this thinking that if you can take somebody who's a famous, somewhat well-known non-believer and show that from their mouth has come, untruths or outright lies or just inconsistencies or something confusing, even if you have to fabricate the whole story, just as long as you can show people, well, look at this guy, it's Matt Dillahunty, he said this crazy thing, then somehow that scores a victory for radical evangelical nuttery. And it's very strange. When we saw Bible Thumping Wingnut do that with Alex Boughton, I don't understand, like that whole debate was Matt Dillahunty saying, okay, well, what does it mean, to say that, the theme of the debate was, the premise was, proposition was that it's rational or justified. It's rational to believe in Christianity. And, Matt Dillahunty came with some issues to discuss, rationality and what evidence is there, what type of evidence would we look for, what are we actually seeing. And Cy Ten Bruggencate had nothing. Like, it was all about what a poo-poo head Matt Dillahunty is. It was stunning. He did, this is my last observation on it, and curious to hear what others thought, but for the first time in Cy Ten Bruggencate history, in sort of in this realm, he showed up with a syllogism. I was shocked. He says, premise 1, it is rational to believe that which is true, or that which is real. Premise 2, God is real. Therefore, the conclusion is it's rational to believe God is real. So you listen to that, and it's a moment you go, well, at premise 2, is he not just sort of slipping in the actual topic of the debate? Like, is it reasonable to believe that premise 2 is true? But that's the debate topic, so he's sliding that. Wait a second. Premise 1 is not only unsupported, but is demonstrably false. I'm going to credit, rarely I'll do this, but both myself and Ozymandias for being the quickest to the keyboards while the show was going on, and get on to G Plus and start typing, hey, this idea, it's reasonable to believe that which is true. It's not only unsupported, it's actually demonstrably false. And it's just one of those things you go like Cy Ten Bruggencate is the cream of the crop when it comes to presuppositional argument, and it's a super silly gaffe. So those are kind of two of my major observations. The attacking of Matt Dillahunty, like that was going to mean something, and then showing up with an argument that just made you go, seriously? Did you not finish your first week at school? But we can come back to that if others have stuff to add.
Oh, I'll throw my tuppence worth in very quickly. I couldn't believe the syllogism that he came up with. I'm not even bothered about going into the philosophical discussion about the veracity of Proposition 1. Proposition 2 is a bold statement by him, which is unsupported by evidence, and he assumes that everyone believes that it is true, namely that God exists. And he relies on the Bible to satisfy this. I think it's some passage in 2nd Romans. I literally could not believe how redundant his arguments were. And that was literally his opening minute. And as soon as he'd come out with his opening minute, I just thought, where on earth are you going to go from here? And all he did was sort of like play clips of Matt saying, words don't have definitions. I could be wrong about things and whatever, as if this supported his argument. And I think for those that want to get the essence of the debate, I think it was C.S. Bear who made a video, the Cy Dillahunty debate summed up in 90 seconds. And it shows Cy's opening statement and the very end of Matt Dillahunty's closing speech. And I think that really does sum it up. But if you want to actually look at the debate, I would advise you to go directly to Dillahunty's closing comments. Yeah, that might sound unfair to me, but you're not going to miss much in the middle. And basically, Dillahunty's closing comments, well, I'll let you watch them. It would be unfair of me to try and summarize them on the hoof, so to speak. But yeah, my conclusion of it is that Cy has now lost all credibility, if indeed he had any credibility before. He certainly lost any credibility that he had by such an overwhelmingly shabby, vacuous performance that he displayed during the course of that debate. And whilst I understand that there may be better presuppositional arguments than he presented, I wait to hear them because I just find them so terribly unconvincing. I'm sorry, I'm rambling on too much. Concordance. What are your thoughts?
Sorry if I can interrupt real brief. Did you? I'm just wondering because I just received a couple of messages from people, DPR, regarding opportunities to join the broadcast. Are you available on Skype? Well, while you're muted, you can figure that out. You're good. Now you got two problems. Why don't you work that?
Is it better to be muted or unmuted? I think that's probably the eternal debate I'll have with Aaron. Yeah, I'm sorry. I've got two requests. One from Ben and one from Dragnet. So yeah, Dragnet, I will bring you in. Nope, hang on. I'm terribly sorry. That's the wrong link.
Concordance can...
this is going to take me a couple of moments, okay? Because I've got to open up another window. What I'm going to do in those couple of moments is move on to our second topic, which is one that I find very troubling. And what's going to happen is that hopefully Concordance is going to play a video and share his screen, and hopefully all of you will be able to hear. Now, I'm not sure that you will. If you can't, do let us know, and we'll just have to talk through the video. But hopefully you will get the audio as well. It might involve me taking my headphones out. Yeah. Concordance, see what happens. Yeah, I'm not hearing anything at the moment. You've got to change your mic input, I think, to real mix. It looks as if you've muted yourself.
Spirit of the Lord, come upon these young people. Fire, with fire, with fire, with fire, with fire. Shabbat, 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 Shabbat. Yeah. Oh, basic abande basic ibando shima abande basic abande Shabbat, Shabbat, Shabbat. It's the Spirit of God. It's the Spirit of God. It's the Spirit of God. Shout Karabas Sunday. Fire of God. Oh, there he is. There he is. There he is. Oh, that's the fire of God. It's the fire. There it is. There it is. There it is. There it is. More of your glory. 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 More. 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 Yeah. More. Whoa. If you're hungry for this anointing, just lift your hands right now, and I'm going to send it right through the TV screen, right into your homes, in Jesus' name. Shokarabashiki arabashandarabashiki arabashande. Shokarabashandarabashiki arabashande. Shobeshiki bashabadebe.
Fill them with fire, Lord Jesus. Let the fire of heaven saturate their soul.
Okay, I'm going to assume you guys can hear me again.
Yeah.
Yep, I can hear you.
I think that's probably enough.
People, hopefully, did people hear all of that?
Unfortunately.
Okay. Scorpio, I want to stay on topic, but I will come to you shortly. Concordance, what was the point that you were seeking to make by playing that video?
So, this is, and I'll read from the description of the video. Basically, these kids are being taught how to be, how to catch the Holy Ghost, how to be slain by the Holy Spirit, how to speak in tongues, how to, they're being taught to act out these bizarre hysterics or these bizarre behaviors, and you can see in the kids' faces that they have been sort of conditioned to do this. So I want you to imagine the damage this kind of thing does to someone who grows up in this. And the reason why this really struck me is I had friends in middle school and younger who would tell me about speaking in tongues, undergoing 3-day fasts of nothing but water, that their religious views sometimes put their lives and their normality in danger, and these kids are not going to have healthy mental states when they believe that every once in a while they speak in tongues, right? It's so deeply ingrained. And it's a little disturbing to watch, to know what is going on with these kids.
I've actually grown up in that.
Well, Dragnet, so rude of me, because I did actually want to talk to someone that did do so. Let us turn to you. Give us a brief description about your upbringing in that sort of culture.
Well, my mother primarily was the matriarch, of course, and she was not a fan of any denominations. But while we were living in Fayetteville, North Carolina, we sort of just kind of went along with the rest of our family, who were very evangelical Pentecostals that would do stuff like this every service. This wasn't, you know, a once a month event. This was every single service. Mind you, they would do this kind of service and have all kinds of services all throughout the week. So, you know, 4 days out of the week, you would have something, a revival or a youth meeting, and people would be, you know, quote unquote, slain in the spirit. And they would conduct what I personally call the Holy Ghost tag, where one person would randomly catch the Holy Ghost from their magical spirit receptors, and they would take off and do laps around this small area, which is probably no more than, you know, 1,200 square feet, and tag someone else, and it would effectively transfer the Holy Ghost, and that person would get up and then do a few laps and then tag another person. Now, as a young kid, this is frightening because there's music going on that sounds like something out of Beetlejuice. There's people up, you know, dancing and moving and swaying and speaking gibberish, and it's very traumatic. And so when
can I just ask then, if there'd been cameras at your church, the images of you would have been very similar to the images that we've just seen?
No, I was standing there baffled. I'd never participated in that shit at all, and that was one of the things that kind of made me an outcast. In fact, I couldn't understand it.
You weren't involved. How were you treated by not getting involved?
Well, I was pretty much a heathen even then, or a heretic, because I had never caught the Holy Ghost while I was there. I was actually accosted by one of my younger family members saying that if I did not catch the Holy Ghost in time, that I would be going to hell. And mind you, this young lady that I was related to was probably 10 or 11 years old at the time, and I want to say I was like maybe 15, 16 years old. So that had a dramatic effect on my outlook toward Christianity and toward other people. So it was something that kind of helped tear myself away from that culture.
Obviously, you were brought up in this environment. At what age did you just find it, to put it mildly, unpersuasive? And before that time, did the threat, and this is how I see a lot of the behavior that was kind of witnessed, it is a threat of damnation if you don't accept Jesus. Did that fear ever be part of your life, or did you just think, no, this is all nonsense?
Oh, that helped keep me inside the cult of Christianity for quite some time. I would have dreams of burning in hell and of different demons and creatures of the sort torturing me. And this was all throughout middle school and a little bit through high school until I was finally able to relinquish myself away from these types of fantasies. But at the time, I didn't realize I was being conditioned into believing stuff like that through tales of like Dante's Inferno and, you know, so on and so forth. But it never fully took hold of me. I'd always retained just enough skepticism to not fall for all the indoctrination that went on during that time.
Does anyone else have questions for Dreadnought? There's so much about this topic that I want to talk about, but please, others go first. No?
Well, I have more on the topic, but not specifically a question for Dreadnought. But
Well,
you can want to ask me a question, though, DPR. right?
I did actually.
Ah.
Oh no, yeah, but that's not quite on topic. I want to stay on this topic, if I may.
Yeah,
And
yeah, we could do
one
that
of the
later.
things that happened when I was in Washington D.C. to attend the American Atheist Convention there, I think in 2012. I think I've got the year right. We did a kind of magic sandwich show in front of the audience at that time, about 500. And one of the questions I recall asking them is whether they thought that teaching children that they would burn in hell was a form of child abuse, a central doctrine of Christianity. And the overwhelming majority raised their hands. And I have to say that I totally agree with them. I think it is utterly disgusting to treat children in this way, to terrorize them into believing as their parents, or not even necessarily their parents. You've got to believe with our faith, otherwise you're going to burn in hell. I'm sorry, I find no other way of describing it but child abuse.
I think so. A lot of people don't want to hear that, but if that's like telling kids if you don't, if you're not a good child throughout the year, Santa Claus isn't going to give you presents. Krampus is going to come and kidnap you and torture you or kill you, which is actually a real part of that lore for certain cultures, not in America, but I want to say in somewhere in Europe. I can't remember where, but it would be the same thing. You're threatening a child who can barely comprehend abstract thinking as it is with eternal damnation and torture for your personal religious proclivities. I can't see how people don't understand that that is manipulation, coercion, and just, I think a better word is skullduggery. I like that word actually. So that's me personally, and I tell my aunts and uncles and cousins too that what they teach their children is child abuse, and I get some dirty looks, but that's the truth. I'm sorry.
So what I think is scary is that by the time they've grown up, that damage has become part of their core, and they're quite willing to put their kids through the same thing. If you ask them at the time, I think they lose the ability to recognize the damage that has been done to them. But I'm sorry, Hogtie, go.
Well, we kind of throw around that term child abuse, and I think that it's one of those phrases that has to be, sort of treaded upon carefully, and we have to ask ourselves, well, what is child abuse? What are the circumstances that what aspects of a thing would make you say, well, that's child abuse or that's not? I mean, obviously the easy one is beating, right? But the thing is, there are lots of circumstances where adults hit children, and children hit other children and whatnot. So, for example, karate classes, right? There are contexts where some of these things are appropriate. And I think what we have to do when we start throwing around the label of child abuse is say, let's not rely on our intuitions about what's abusive or damaging or destructive in some way, but to actually take a look at some real data and say, and I use the example of karate, like when you teach children karate, they don't go out and start, punching other kids and robbing convenience stores and jumping off things and dying, right? That sort of, like that video clip leaves a lot of people feeling uncomfortable. And I think what we do know from the research is that, I'm going to have to interrupt myself to sort of make this point too. Do we ever want to step on a parent's rights or community's rights to tell their children about their understanding of the world and the supernatural world? We sort of want to give them some latitude to do that, except I think when it's demonstrably dangerous to tell them those things in that particular way. See, the thing is, I don't ever want to say that it's child abuse to tell kids that if you don't do X, then bad thing Y is going to happen. Because at some point you got to tell your kids, look, if you ride your bike, just go bouncing off the curb and into the street, one of these days someone's going to hit you with their car, right? But we do that in sensible, rational, compassionate ways. We don't take our kids and show them videos of accident scenes of other children with their guts sprayed all over the place, so that they have horrifying nightmares. That's not how you teach your children bicycle safety. But what is very well known is that those techniques that are in that video, those techniques lend themselves very nicely to cultish behavior. and to preventing the development of a sensible barrier between fact and fiction in your mind. There was a study it was in cognitive science.
Science, yeah. I'm looking at it right now, actually.
Okay, I going from memory. I don't even remember who publishes cognitive science, whether or not it's sort of an upper echelon journal or a you publisher site. But it's they're saying that the religious thinking. Apparently, I am frozen. It was frozen. I don't know if I'm still in or not.
We still hear you.
Religiosity in children, especially imparted in the way that they're. Okay. That the religiosity impairs a kid's ability to distinguish fact from fiction, and I have not followed up on this story again. Even read that full article. But this is the thing. Sometimes these things get away on us. Like now, there's some stories going around where people are connecting this article to a murder that happened a while ago. Sorry, I don't think the girl died from it. Might have been an attempted murder. But where two preteen girls had taken another preteen girl out into the forest and stabbed her repeatedly as an offering to the spirit Slender Man. And if you know who Slender Man is, this is horrifying because Slender Man isn't even a matter of lore or history or culture or ancient writings. Slender Man was intentionally like a social experiment. It was something, in its inception, it was something that was created to be like, can we create an urban legend? And when they arrest these girls for stabbing this other girl, these girls, they had to explain to the girls that Slender Man isn't real. Because somehow their brains are not well set up to make the distinction between, the boogeyman and Slender Man, versus, the person that works at the post office who's a real person. So, I mean, my point here being that we have demonstrable, like a wealth of evidence that shows that teaching children using the techniques we see in that video is destructive to their overall mental health, destructive to their ability to be good citizens in the future and to be good parents themselves. I think with that in hand, it's fair to say that that's abusive.
Yeah, emotionally abusive.
And not only that, and thank you for that contribution, but simply the process they're going through. Leave aside the consequences that you so eloquently described. The very process. I cannot look at that sort of video without feeling uncomfortable. It's wrong. I mean, Concordance has, on several occasions on these shows, talked about the way in which he brings up his children, and despite his theological beliefs, takes them to church and educates them about different belief systems and allows them to make that choice. How can you possibly say that his position is not the right one to take and not criticize what we've seen in that video? Concordance, it was your choice of video. Go on, let's hear from you.
No, I mean, everything that's been said is so on the nose from what I had in mind. The only thing I think that isn't addressed, and it's the thorniest issue, I think, is that this is a generational inability to think critically. It's not abuse, it is the heritable inability to recognize the basis for these claims. In other words, once you're in it, like, I don't know if you know the old short story, the lottery. Once you're invested in it, you can never get outside of it to recognize it as a problem, or only the very rare exception manages to escape from that on a generational basis. So you've got, you teach your kids, because you were a part of that, you teach your kids the same thing. The parents feel that they're doing the right thing, but what they're doing is they're removing from the child the ability to recognize what's being done to them. I think that's the greatest tragedy, is everyone is doing what they think is right, and yet I think great harm is coming from it.
One of the questions that has been posed, I won't read it in its entirety, invites us to discuss how we break this cycle, Concordance.
That's the problem. That is absolutely the problem. How do you break break the cycle. Hogtie had some really good points about we draw some very fuzzy lines around what parents are allowed to indoctrinate their children into. We don't want to see the destruction of cultures around. Let's say we're talking about Amish or Mennonite. Those are children who are raised a certain way to believe a certain thing, and apparently they're given their chance to go out into the world and then make a decision. But at that point, their minds are already set. They're already educated a certain way. And I'm not saying that they're destructive. I'm not saying it's very hard to put a moral value judgment on the lifestyle that people have adopted or cultural values. But at the same time, I think children, as a fundamental right, are allowed to develop the critical thinking skills to examine their own lifestyle. They shouldn't be tied to that culture just because it's sort of wrong of us, it's wrong of other people to impose our moral judgments on other people's cultures. It's such a thorny issue, I don't want to dig too deep into it.
Well, and unfortunately, unless we dig deep into it, there's no obvious solution. And I agree with you. It is a very thorny one, because if you are in any way going to attempt, whether it's a society or whatever, a government, to start seeking to impose your views on parents and what parents can teach children, then yeah, that kind of gets really scary. But at the same time, I keep harping back. When I see images that we've just seen, I find that deeply disturbing as well. I don't know what the answer is. Concordance. Sorry, Hogtie.
Yeah, I was going to want to couple my answer with this one with another one of the questions that came up in Q&A about should I believe the question was along the lines of should the main focus of atheism be to get God out of government? And my answer to that is, well, yes, it should be a very important, one of the focuses to get God out of government, but so what? Realize, and it is an important battle, but the thing is, if we get, I should say, the Americans get in God we trust off the money, or you go back to the older version, the Pledge of Allegiance, then so what? What happens? You take a look at that video that we just watched, and there are plenty more of them on YouTube. I think the exposés on this sort of indoctrination of children, cultish-like emotional, mind control techniques. It was a Jesus camp. It was really, really well done, and kind of the genesis of a lot of these sort of exposés. Those kids that grow up from that, do you think they're going to be different because they don't have "In God We Trust" on your money? Like, and I'm not saying the Americans don't bother trying to fix those governmental issues, because yeah, they're important, but it's a bigger social issue, and it's a hard one to tread on, as previous people before me have said here, that when does the American society or any other country society, on what occasions, like we can say, yeah, it's child abuse. Okay, but on what occasions and through what means would we choose to step in between parents and children? Right? Well, obviously, if you've got a parent that gets drunk and burns their kid with cigarette butts, apprehension. That child doesn't stay in that home. That's a no-brainer. But you know what? What do we do? What do we do with these kids? And it's really, really hard. I think it's going to have to be a big public discussion. And I wish I had more illuminating comments to offer on it, because it's a hard problem.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to invite our next caller in, because I have to say I've got nothing further to add to it. I think it is a terrible conundrum. I am deeply concerned by the way in which many parents raise their children, but how could I possibly affect that without affecting their individual rights and the whatever? I mean, it is a troublesome one. Perhaps one we shall come back to, but hopefully we'll be joined in a few moments by Ben, who wants to go back to the presuppositional argument. I'm not sure how long we're going to take this, because I don't know, is anyone in any way, whilst we're waiting for Ben,
yes.
Is anyone
yes.
in any way impressed by presuppositional arguments?
I am.
It seems to me that if you're providing evidence for the most omnipotent, omnipresent, whatever entity and you have to rely on presuppositional arguments. It's like the last bastion of a scoundrel. It's pathetic. But anyway, hopefully Ben will join us. In fact, he might well have joined us by now. Ben, are you with us?
Yep. There he is.
Yes, I was just muted.
Yeah, okay.
Is my call coming through okay?
It's coming through perfectly. What have you got for us?
Actually, I wanted to bring up something. I was talking to Dragonaut earlier this morning, and one observation I had talking with them about presuppositionalism was that, to me, it's magic. It's just throwing out a lot of words out there like a magic spell, hoping for a result. Like, just a second, please. See if my camera comes on. Okay. So, for effect, DPR Jones, your morality is entirely fallacious, based on illogical, atheistic presuppositions. Now be gone, you! How much difference is that from a lot of the presuppositionalist arguments?
Oh my God! It just worked. I've gone.
I knew it. I was like, oh my gosh!
Turned into a magic.
I've got some magic here. Okay, perfect.
Can you mute me
What
as well?
long sub? Darn it! My magic doesn't work anymore.
Yeah, DPR, I don't know what your original. I think I started answering yes before you finished your question about is anybody impressed by it? I thought you were going to ask, are we still talking about this? I don't know. In terms of presuppositional apologetics and with regard to its sort of place on the Magic Sandwich Show, I'm kind of two minds because, I mean, actually even before my attendance to Magic Sandwich, you guys had sort of, it had come and gone. And we've discussed it a couple times since then. And it's like, okay, well, let's move on to something that actually has some meat in it, something that's of real substance. But then again, like there's they're still talking about it. It still goes on.
I'll summarize as best I can why I find it utterly fallacious. Firstly, I'm talking here about Seitan Brukenkate's representation of presuppositionalism. Firstly, he claims that we all know that God exists. Where does he get this from? From the Bible. How does he know the Bible is true? Because it has been revealed to him in such a way that he knows it to be true.
Magic.
How is it being revealed? No, it's just
in a way you cannot
in
nail
such
down.
a way that I know it to be true. Well, no, explain to me, because I'm not getting it. Explain to me how it has been revealed. It has been revealed to me in such a way that I know it's true. He then claims, as I say, that we all know that God exists. So he's claiming knowledge claims about something that he cannot possibly have any idea about, and he refuses to explain. And this is my personal irritation with it. He refuses to explain why the presuppositional stance that he takes leads him to the God of the Bible as opposed to any other deity that could possibly fit his criteria, apart from saying, because it's been revealed to me in such a way that I know it's true. I'm sorry, it's boring, it's banal, it's crap, it's cass, and if anyone doubts me, just seriously watch his debate with Dillahunty.
Actually, I made a video.
Embarrassment for him.
I made a video on someone who tries to parrot him named Arcane Logos, and Hogtie Champ has had a go at him, and he doesn't understand the concepts that he brings up in support of the presuppositional apologetic. For instance, solipsism. While claiming that no one can solve the problem of hard solipsism and that he has revealed truth that come directly from God, he negates what solipsism is, because God would be another mind outside of his own. There would be no way for him to objectively prove in his worldview that this being that's talking to him is even God. So that has never been addressed as far as I'm concerned, but it's a little bit of hypocrisy. Well, it's a lot of bit of hypocrisy to conclude that you know exactly what's on someone else's mind, yet they are subject to solipsism and you are not. It's a smokescreen, for as far as I'm concerned.
I'll tell you what, unless someone wants to comment on that, I'll tell you what the most poignant thing I think that came out of the debate. Sorry, I've just slipped back into Jason Burns' talk. The debate was the fact that Sai accepted that his God, the God that he believes in, the God of the Bible, is not all-loving and can be a somewhat cantankerous old git that has no problem with sending people to hell and burning them forever. I thought that was quite enlightening in a way. It just shows that he's prepared to worship an entity that is not as nice as most Christians would try and sell him as.
Yeah, actually, some of them are actually coming to terms with understanding how fucked up their deity is, but the way that they reconcile.
Can you remove the small child? Otherwise, I'll be in breach of an injunction.
Hi, run! DPR sees you. Run! Run! Run, you fool! But he's actually supposed to be upstairs. I'm going to talk while I walk upstairs. No, a few Christians that I've spoken to actually reconcile this. It would be a conundrum for me, but they say that, well, he's God. He can do whatever he wants. He created everything. So if he wants to torture us forever, and if he wants us to play silly little games, then that's his right as this totalitarian, omnipotent being. And that's scary. That's scary that someone would even accept that, much less tell it to someone else and expect them to accept it.
Yeah, it's just a argument from authority that, God is the biggest, most powerful dude on the block, so he has power over you.
That's really the only explanation that I've personally heard, but only a few of them will actually try to explain away the so-called, or what they consider evil acts of God.
Well, I think the most revealing thing from the whole debate was, audience-wise, was the reaction they got to Satan saying his preferred form of government was theocracy, that he obviously hadn't thought of the question to qualify it and make, a theocracy sound more palatable. That, I think that, as God reveals himself, we will come to a more Christian form of government. That's saying, a theocracy in a little more digestible language, I would think. Can you hear me?
Yeah, DPR stepped away. Yeah, we can still hear you. The DPR had to step away for some tea and crumpets or something.
Sliced cucumber on crackers. Or biscuits, excuse me.
There he is. He's back now. Still muted, though. But it never ceases to amaze me that so many people will try and make excuses for this deity as if this was the only one that exists, but this is the only acceptable one that has been divinely revealed to them, and then no other deity can possibly exist simply because of their own bias, which I have. That's like getting one of these presuppositionalists to admit bias is like pulling teeth from a hippo during mating season.
I have just extended an invitation to Matthew Bell to join us. Let me just make sure I do not misrepresent what he said. How about an invite to the show from some Christian theist representation? Matthew Bell is someone that some of you may be familiar with. I have been sent an invite to him. I forewarn you, please, he's not someone that likes interruptions, so if he does join us, please extend him the courtesy of finishing his sentence, which I don't want to sound patronizing. It may take some time. He's a genuine theist, and interestingly enough, he's one that has serious disagreements with a lot of other theists about their positions, and this is something that I think was the third topic that we were going to come on to. Please, everyone, stay with us, and hopefully we'll get Matthew here. But this was one that Hogtie wanted to raise. Oh, Matthew, you are with us. Can we just check? Yep, there we go. Matthew, thank you very much for joining us. And I know that I was just explaining a little bit about you before you joined us. I hope that I didn't misrepresent you. And perhaps just for the sake of clarity, I'll give you the opportunity of giving a brief introduction to yourself, so to speak, and what your beliefs are. Just a couple of sentences.
Yeah, I'm a Christian theist, apologist, sympathetic to the Reformed view of Christianity, fairly active in combating atheism. Basically about it.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Just to carry on from an earlier topic that we were having in relation to the teaching of religion to children and the manner in which it's done. I presume that you were watching the show before and you saw that and the discussion that took place, yes?
I seen the video clip posted in by, I think it was Concordance, the YouTube video stuff of the slaying in the spirit kind of stuff. Yeah, I seen that, yeah.
What I know that your views are not necessarily typical of all Christians or any particular Christian. I mean, just dealing with that issue though, looking at what you saw in that video and probably what you've also seen in other videos such as Jesus Camp and whatever. What's your view about the way in which it is appropriate to teach children about religion?
Well, that video is not appropriate in the slightest. The appropriate way basically is to allow them to develop to a stage where their critical thinking skills are functional, and then, you know, if you want to introduce them to Christianity, then to do so gradually, never to do so forcefully, never to indoctrinate, and just respect their response to that. Give them the time, the flexibility, the freedom to look at it for themselves and respect their decision. Teach them how to think and go forward from there.
I think that's an incredibly refreshing view to take, and I applaud you for having that view. Is that the way that you yourself was raised?
No. I was taken to church from birth, was indoctrinated into the denomination I belonged to, and remained there until the age of 28 years of age. And
obviously that age resonates with you. Something significant must have happened. What happened at the age of 28?
I left that denomination.
Why?
Because I had seen too much of the internal workings of it. I didn't believe some of its teachings were in accordance with the scriptures. I believed that some of its teachings indeed were harmful to children going through school, the school system. It caused unnecessary pressure on them, and it was basically, for me, it had served its purpose. I knew that denomination inside out. It had nothing to offer me, so I moved on from it.
I'm intrigued. There are so many questions that I would like to ask that come out of your response, and I'm going to throw three at you. The first two should be fairly simple. The third one may cause you greater deliberation. The first is, what is the denomination that you left? Secondly, what denomination you moved to? And thirdly, and this is the interesting one, I think, if you change a denomination, what's going on there? Is it? I've heard about this several times from people who said, well, I looked around for a religion that suited me, and it made it sound to me as if they were just window shopping for something that made them feel comfortable, and that, to me, is not searching for the truth. It's searching, as I say, for something that makes them comfortable. So, as I say, question one was, what denomination did you leave? What denomination? Question two was, what denomination you came to? And thirdly, do you think that you were window shopping, or are there justifications for your shifting your denomination?
The denomination I belonged to was the Salvation Army. I never moved on to any other denomination, so the last question's irrelevant.
Okay, so the God that you believed in through the Salvation Army is still the one that you believe in. Nothing has changed.
Yeah. No, the God of the Salvation Army is the God of Arminianism. Through a study of the scriptures, I'm more sympathetic towards the view that the God to exist is more likened to the God of the Reformed faith or Calvinism.
I have this written down because you mentioned the Reformed Church. You're presuming, well, let me not put words into your mouth. When you talk about the Reformed Church, what are you talking about?
I'm referring to what's traditionally known as Calvinism, but I'm not a Calvinist. I don't associate or I don't worship with a Reformed church. My position theologically is more linked to Calvinistic theology than Arminian theology because of what I'd find in the scriptures.
Okay, I'm sure that many people on the panel have questions for you, and I think it's only right that I let them have an opportunity. Who would like to ask Matthew? With courtesy, please. Any question?
My question would be, what age do you think is appropriate to bring a child into church? I mean, of course, there's going to be variations on the child and the child's development. I'm just curious if you think that there is a starting age where it's okay to, or if you think that like bringing a child to church from day one is establishing a pattern of repetition, which could be seen as a form of indoctrination.
Yeah, but I mean the same would apply. I mean that's like asking what's the appropriate age to put your child into the educational system. You could look at the educational system and you could say that that's a form of indoctrination, and it's a form of indoctrination that's used through pattern building, through repetitive attendance and things like that. So if Christians believe and have good reasons to believe that God exists and God is as they think he is, and that's reality, that's truth, then for them, they would introduce their children in an appropriate way, the same way you would introduce your children to the educational system, which teaches truthful subjects like mathematics, history, geography, etc. like that. So, but it needs to be done appropriately. What I'm not recommending is indoctrination. Happens in Roman Catholicism, happens in other churches and denominations. It needs to be, I think the most important thing, teach them critical thinking as soon as they're of an age to take that in. If you teach a child critical thinking, it doesn't matter what environment you place someone in. If they have critical thinking skills, they're not going to be subject to indoctrination.
Matthew, I've got another question. I'm sorry if other people did, but I did want to pose this to you because it suddenly sprang to mind. It's something that I heard about a couple of days ago. And please tell me if I'm correct in this or not. It's been suggested by some people that you do not actually believe that the Bible is inerrant. Is that correct? You do. That is correct, yeah? Yeah.
It's only a tiny minority of Christians who believe the Bible to be inerrant, fundamentalists.
Yeah, and the interesting criticism that you've got by making that statement is that you are not a true Christian. Now, leave that aside. I'm not too bothered about that. I may come back to it. But could you explain to us in what way you think the Bible is incorrect?
Yeah, I mean the Bible is not. I mean the Bible is not scientifically accurate, and the Bible has contradictions or the appearance of contradictions, where although you can resolve the contradictions through harmonizations, the harmonizations are more far-fetched than the simple conclusion that this is just a contradiction. It has errors of history, geography, mathematics, all of those stuff. So when you look into that and you say, well, you then have to rethink, well, what is the intention of God in giving us the scriptures? Was it to give us a scientifically, geographically, all of those different subjects accurate textbook, or was it to tell us about his existence, how we came about, what our condition is, what we need, and how we can go about getting that, and then how we can live our lives. So I take it in the latter fashion, but not the former.
Yeah, and this will be my last question, because I'm sure that other people will have many questions for you, but this will be my last. When you look at the Bible and you seek, guidance or truth, how do you determine what is truth, and how do you determine what is valid guidance? How do you sort the wheat from the chaff, so to speak?
Well, what you do is sorry.
Yep. No. Carry on.
You establish, like I hinted at just 5 minutes ago, you establish what the intention of the Bible is. I don't see anything at all in the Bible or in the early church fathers or Christian theology that dictates to me that the intention of the authors of the Bible was to give us cosmology or mathematics, history to absolute precise measure, things like that. So you then say, well, okay, so I know that's not the intention, so what would the intention be? Like I said, the intention is to tell us about the existence of God, reveal the nature of God, tell us about us, what we are, i.e. spiritually speaking, what we are, how we came to be that way, what the resolution that God has provided for that, how we can avail ourselves of that, and how we can then live as Christians. So the scriptures are inerrant in the sense of its purpose. Its purpose is spiritual. It's about God and us and salvation. To that extent, it's inerrant. It's without error. But in regards to ordinary matters, it didn't have that intention, and that's where the errors are.
Okay, I've got too much to say about this. I'll let someone else take over, though, please. Who would like to go first?
I just want to comment. I think I've been in several hangouts with Matthew Bell, and I've actually watched a few exchanges with him, and I think it was Veckel, where, and correct me if I'm wrong, Matthew Bell, that he believes the entire book is it's pretty much the opposite of what you're saying. You're saying the book is primarily to teach about Jesus, about God, about how to become one and to fulfill the prophecies and so on and so forth. But as far as the bits and pieces in between with the stories of Jonah and the whale and all that kind of stuff, that's not necessarily important. The crux of it is to get to a status worthy of that of God. Am I correct?
I'm sorry. Can I just pause there? Matthew, could I invite you please to mute your microphone when you're not speaking, because we're getting in the tap from your keyboard and it's slightly distracting. Thank you very much. Sorry, Dragnet, to continue.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that was what one of the exchanges was, because I definitely want to say I remember hearing an exchange with him and another Christian where Matthew Bell's interpretation was a bit blasphemous, for lack of a better term, because they considered the entire book to be inerrant and just as important as the bits that tell you exactly how to become, one with God in a sense. And am I correct in that?
Yeah, I mean, inerrantists are usually fundamentalists. I don't think it would be amiss to say that Veckel is a fundamentalist, G-Man is a fundamentalist, but both those individuals You know, those are individuals who have a fundamentalist view. I've been a fundamentalist for good reasons. I've abandoned fundamentalism, so I know their position, I know my position, and I'm quite happy to defend my position against them or anyone else.
What's curious to me, Matthew, if I may, is that my understanding, and I think the general understanding, is that the most powerful entity in the world inspired the writing of the Bible. If you believe that he was the most powerful, awesome person and did inspire the Bible, why did he get it so wrong?
Well, the thing is, I wouldn't agree with you that he did get it so wrong. If I have an intention in my mind, and I go about bringing about my intention, and my intention is brought about in the way I want to, but then people misunderstand my intention, and they ascribe to me intentions I never had, and they're evaluating me on intentions I never had. There's no error on my part. I had this objective in mind. I've put in place what I wanted to get to achieve that objective. I've achieved that objective, but other people are ascribing to me objectives I never had in the first place. So there's no, God didn't get it wrong. God got it perfectly right. He had the intention to communicate to us through the authors who he was, who we are, what we need, how he's provided for what we need, how we can avail ourselves of that, and how to live as Christians.
Well, in that case, I need to ask a few fundamental questions. Is your opinion of God, your God, is he the most perfect being?
Yes.
Is he all-powerful?
Yes.
Could he answer prayers?
Yes.
Does he answer prayers?
Yes.
Could he stop cancer?
Yes.
Does he allow suffering?
Yes.
Does he enjoy suffering?
No.
Does he threaten us with eternal damnation and fire?
No.
No, you're not. You don't believe in the concept of hell?
Yes, I do, but not in the concept of hell as you described it, which is a fundamentalist concept.
Okay, but you believe that after life there is a damnation for those that do not believe or do not conform?
There is a state of existence for non-Christians which would be eternal separation from God, which is what they're looking for anyway.
So that wouldn't be punishment then?
No. Well,
so
it wouldn't be punishment.
A non-believer isn't punished.
It wouldn't be punishment from the perspective of where we are just now, but you need to bear in mind that when, like, say you're an atheist and you die, and let's say Christianity is true, you would then have full knowledge that God exists, and that God to exist is the God of Christianity. You would have full knowledge that you were in fact a sinner, that you did in fact need salvation, that Christ did in fact die for your sins, and that you made a very grievous error in your thinking in rejecting that. But that, so you would exist eternally in that state, but with that knowledge. I think that would be a form of punishment.
I'll explain why I have a difficulty with the concept of God that you have. Leaving aside any argument about evidence of I presume it's his existence, I can't marry up the idea that an all-loving God would allow suffering, would allow distress, would allow any form of torment or punishment upon people that he proclaims to love. I mean, the concept, as I say, I'm not bothered about evidence, just the concept of an all-loving God allowing suffering and punishment and whatever. I just simply have never been able to make sense of this.
But that's probably because you've never encountered or studied or researched the Reformed faith, because everything you just said there has no application to the Reformed faith. God does
Well,
not.
it does. It does, because
No.
I just went through the
Let me
questions with
elaborate.
Matthew in order to establish what your view of your God was. And you said your God was all-loving. You said your God did have the ability to cure cancer. He did answer prayers and whatever. Why does he allow all this sort of suffering if he is all-loving? Which, again, you said he was.
Just to correct you there, a question you never asked me was whether or not God was all-loving. You never asked that question.
Okay, let me ask you that question now. Is your God all-loving?
No.
Okay, end of. Anyone else want to chip in, please? I've got another caller waiting, and we have 25 minutes to go. Does anyone else want to raise a question with Matthew?
No, not really. I mean, I've kind of fielded questions from Matthew Bell, and then that's why I brought up the exchange before, where many other Christians, the fundamentalists, do consider him fairly blasphemous in some of his beliefs, even though some of them are much more reasonable in my opinion. But that's just my take.
There's certainly a conversation with Matthew Bell sometimes brings some perspective to our conversation here on YouTube. Not that so we agree on a lot of stuff, but you notice there are many people on YouTube, many Christian apologists on YouTube that could take a lesson in answering questions. You know, the tone of the conversation changes considerably as, you know, DPR says, well, just so that I understand your position correctly, let me ask you the following 15 questions. You got answers to them, and he's like, oh, okay, I understand where you're coming from now. You're not in the pigeonhole that we may have incorrectly initially assumed that you were in. And you don't get that from the radical evangelicals. You know, they got to duck and dodge questions and, you know, spin their wheels for 20 minutes, and it's I
absolutely agree, Concordance. Sorry, why do I keep calling you Concordance? Oh, sorry. I totally agree, and the one thing that you can say about Matthew, and I appreciate it, is his openness and frankness. And whilst obviously we don't agree with, well, I don't agree with necessarily everything that he says, at least he answers the question, and at least he is willing to engage. So, Matthew, thank you very much. I've got a caller left, and I've only got 20 minutes of the show left to go. So, can I thank you very much for your contribution?
Can I just make one final comment?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, it was on that video posted by Concordance. I've got personal experience of that, working against that. And just to say that nothing in that video represents Christianity as taught in the scriptures. So thanks very much for the invite. Thanks for the time. Enjoy your hangout.
Thank you very much.
See you around.
Perhaps I invite you to put yourself on your sword rather than me having to kick you. I always find it comfortable to kick you.
I'll do that.
Thank you very much
to do so.
And we may have. Oh, hang on a second.
And perhaps on his exit, I want to mention too that Ra is commenting in the comment section. This the same sort of thing, and I think that needs to be made clear that like. We're identifying, and actually I'm midway through typing a response, so let me just read real quick here. We were discussing difficult issues arising from the conduct of a group of people, right? You know, Ra's comment here is that, oh, Magic Sandwich Show uses its show to promote a non-mainstream sect of Christianity to bash Jesus Christ. Now, come on. We are talking about a particular sect of Christianity that arguably does some damaging things, and we're saying this you know, difficult issues arise from this. And if you want to say that as a Christian you think what they're doing is not Christian, and as a good human being you're concerned about what they're doing and the effect that it has, then join in the conversation. Don't sit there and tell us that we're bashing Jesus Christ because we're pointing out the conduct of a group of people who you wouldn't even consider to be Christians as being something that we're concerned with. So it's a very small sect. There's these people that do these kind of things. That's if you were to pie chart Christianity, those sorts of radical nutters would be a very thin slice of the pie.
I see this a lot, actually. I call it the Christian victim complex. Anytime anyone acknowledges the wrong that a group does, specifically Christian, the other Christians won't call it out. They won't say, hey, these guys are nuts. but they'll take up for them and they'll use them in argument. Hey, we got all these numbers. We have all these Christians here and here. But when you point to say, hey, you know that includes the Westboro Baptists, right? Oh, no, those aren't real. No. Why are you pointing at them? Why are we even talking about them? Then it becomes a problem when someone acknowledges it. So it's a little...
Not true Scotsman, be they?
Yeah.
And I was referring to an incident, as I say, which happened only a couple of days ago, where someone was calling Matthew Bell never a true Christian. He was never a Christian. He's not a Christian, on the basis that he just doesn't find the Bible totally true, and it is not inerrant. I love arguments between Christians, and do make me giggle. But there we go. I think we're joined by Ben now. You might have to unmute yourself.
Do you expect my name to be Ben?
Oh, no, no, you're not the person I just invited in. No, you're not. I'm sorry. My bad.
I had my hand up, but I forgot my point I was going to make.
Has not joined us. I've sent him the link, but he's not joining us.
I just remembered what you asked, what you can do, and the only thing I can think of is be open to talking with anyone. That I had a wonderful experience yesterday where I was at the local library, and the support group was doing a book sale. So I was just looking at the DVDs, and this other guy standing right next to me, look at said about the DVDs. Man, can you believe some of these things actually got made? And it just happened to be as my eye fell on a DVD that said 4 questions for the evolutionists. So I pulled it out and laughed and said, "Yeah." Oh, do you believe in evolution? Like, yeah, I accept it as a bit valid scientific theory. Oh, well, I believe God created the universe. Okay, I just think it's a valid scientific theory, like, general relativity and germ theory. I use both of those in my life every day, so I didn't want to push him on the subject, but just leave the seed of thought. If he thinks about it, he does use both of those in the day. He probably uses a GPS where you're getting into the theory of relativity for the mathematics of that, and the germ theory, you wash your hands. So I think that the only is to be as open and try to talk to as many people as possible, but that is just the only solution I can come up with off the top of my head.
Well, I mean, a lot of the...
I'm going to join you. There seems to be someone in the call. I do apologise for interrupting. And the name is Ham something. Who is this person? Why are you in the call? If it's not the person I sent the link to, then I don't know how you've got here. Are you with us?
I'm afraid it is me. Right, I have to say, I'm a bit embarrassed. I was actually expecting to somehow magic my way into here through Skype, but apparently...
Oh, right.
No,
I apologize.
Google Plus.
I have to send you the Skype contact, and then you have to come in through a somewhat long-winded way, but you're here now. Welcome to the show.
Well, for the sake of my own reputation, I would like my name to be Hosh. Not...
No Hosh. We'll cut out the middle bit in editing.
When I'm in... I'm kind of embarrassed now to be sitting in front of y'all with this screen name, which is coming up on being 2 decades old now. But yes, my Google Plus...
I knew it was early 90s rap.
Yeah.
I knew it.
What have you got for us, Hosh?
Well, first, I wanted to... kind of remiss that I apparently be kicked off Ben, just to fit me into here, because I wanted to commend him for a couple of things. One, I wanted to commend him for answering that string of yes or no questions with just a simple yes or no. And at the same time, I want to thank you, DPR, for actually doing that. I feel like that needs to happen a lot more.
Yeah, that being Matthew Bell. But yes.
Yeah. I also want to commend him for believing that I hope he's still listening. For believing that religious education should not be done forcefully, and that I personally denounce indoctrination. That's the line that where we play definitions, where it becomes child.
I agree with you so much, and whilst I I obviously do not agree with pretty much anything Matthew says. I do appreciate his openness and frankness and an honest approach to discourse. I think that he should be congratulated in that regard, because he's one of the few people that I come across on Google Hangouts or YouTube that is actually prepared to do that. Most of them I do not share the same respect for. So yeah, I'm totally with you.
So DPR, a while ago, you were telling us all how you couldn't reconcile the fact, or the presumed circumstance, where we have an all-loving God that also allows suffering to exist in the world, much less allows suffering for his supposed special tribe of people, the Hebrews.
I didn't go quite that far, but yes, in general terms, yes.
I think it isn't so much of a problem, because have you heard of the hedonic treadmill?
I haven't, but before you tell us about it, which I'm quite curious about, let me state my case again, lest it be have been misunderstood. Every single concept of a god is someone, an entity. This goes throughout pretty much every religion I'm aware of. An entity that is all-powerful and all-loving. Now, Matthew was kind enough to say his particular god was not all-loving, which is a refreshing thing, because it does help to explain the atrocities that this god allows to happen. But for the majority of people, they will claim that they believe in a god that is all-loving, and an all-loving god that is also all-powerful should be able to stop suffering. And for those people, and I was stressing those people, there seems to be some imbalance there, does there not? Namely that their God that they think is all-loving, all-caring, and all-powerful does allow suffering. That's my issue.
Well, the hedonic treadmill is a concept that describes how people react to the happiness in their life and how they perceive the happiness. It suggests that no matter who you are or what your circumstances in life are, after a while, you will establish a normal amount of happiness. This would be whether you're rich or poor, a noble or a slave. Everyone eventually adjusts and finds a normal, and then anything special that happens that makes it better will make you happy. Any further detriment to your life will make you unhappy. And the concept is that these bumps of happiness and unhappiness are equal between people, no matter where subjectively on the scale of happiness they are. So, say you're a very wealthy Republican living in a manor, and you get I don't know, some political objective starts moving your way. You will be happy. I mean, let's just create a unit of measurement for this. You will be 10 thoms of happiness. If you're a slave in America, circa the 1700s, and you get through the day without any beatings, you even score yourself some extra food, you will also experience 10 thoms of happiness. So the point I bring this up is because if an all-loving God exercises all of his power to remove suffering from the world, the hedonic treadmill will reduce people into thinking that the world is just normal, even if they're living in a perfect society of no suffering, and then they will not be able to feel happiness in the same manner.
I can kind of accept the general point, but I think it fails at extremes, does it not? To get happiness from immense suffering, it doesn't seem like just to me. I know what you're saying. Well, I think I know what you're saying. If life was all happy, then we'd have nothing to judge that by. So we need to have some sort of gradients between unhappiness and happiness. But I don't see that, even if that argument is true, which I'm not accepting is true, I don't think that it needs the immense suffering that we see all the time. So I don't know what your position is so far as God is concerned, and whether you think that God has his hand on the tiller of this sort of like happiness scale, this bell chart of happiness. But I find it utterly unconvincing.
Perhaps I could reword it.
Yeah.
Imagine, does a fish know it's wet?
I'm sorry. I'm simply not interested in answering that question. If you've got a point to make, then make it. But if your point starts by, let me ask you a question, then I could say yes or no. Okay? What's your point?
Okay, so I'm trying to define happiness as an improvement to your situation. So if your situation is in a perpetual state of perfection, you can never improve upon it, thus never feel happiness.
I kind of wish you hadn't have taken us through the...
Sorry, do go on. I've told you, I accept that personally, and I suspect other people as well, have a sort of like area of experiences. And at one end you could say it's happiness, and the other one is unhappiness. And most of the time we are somewhere around the middle. I've got no problem with that outlook, but I don't see how this has got anything whatsoever to do with a divinity or God, or in fact, I don't see what it's got to do with anything.
And I got to say,
what is the point you're trying to make? Sorry, Hogtie, just go on.
Yeah, if you're going to do that that shtick again, I would, this show again or someone else's show or whatever, I would just leave out the whole journey through the hedonic treadmill, which has essentially nothing to do with the point you're making. That, well, if people were happier, they wouldn't be happy. That's not at all what that model or what that research lends to. I mean, if your point is, I don't know, okay, what is your point? Do you want to take another run at it? Can it be summarized as simply as, well, if there was nothing in the world that made us unhappy, then what? What is your point? Can you usher us to it quickly?
To be honest, now I'm trying to figure out what my own point was.
Okay.
Oh, well, that's an honest and refreshing confession. But yeah, I mean, to say one is happy needs something to be for it to be compared with. To say one is unhappy, you need something to compare that with. So the middle ground is, everyday life, and sometimes things make you happy. Sometimes you see things, you meet people, you talk to people. Other times, your cat is killed. So yeah, you need something, some middle ground by which to say, well, I'm happier today, or happy at this particular point, or unhappy at this particular point. But I simply don't, and that I fully accept, if that's your point, but I don't see where that point takes us at all. And if you were seeking to suggest that there was some divine element behind this, then...
that's right. Excuse me, I'm back on track now.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah.
You've got. We will be closing in about 7 minutes. No, actually, we started late, so about 10 minutes time. So okay. Do try and keep it somewhat brief.
I remember now. I was trying to tear down your argument that.
Which argument? Oh, sorry. Yeah. Sorry. Go on.
An all-loving God that is also all-powerful would not allow suffering. I was trying to tear that down by pointing out, or trying to construct this such that such a thing would be logically impossible, given the above definitions of happiness.
I certainly never said that it was logically impossible. I just said that it wasn't. It was inconsistent with the nature of an all-living God, all-loving God.
Right. I was just trying to say that.
Let me restate what Matthew Bell said, and what I also commented on about Satan-Brückenkate. Their particular imagination of God is that God is not all loving. And I think that if you accept God is not all loving, a lot of things make a lot more sense. But it doesn't seem to fit with most people's imagination of what a God is.
For that matter, I've questioned what the definition of all loving could possibly be. Because I imagine.
I can give you one. I can give you one.
Okay, go ahead.
If I was all-powerful and all-loving, I would not allow starvation, famine, natural disasters, cancer. I'd eradicate all of that like that because I have the power to do it.
All right. Well, I feel like what you're describing.
I want to eradicate death. I think death is actually important. But do go on.
I feel like what you're describing there are just the actions of a loving person.
Yeah, that's what I've just said.
But I'm trying to wonder what even the definition of the definitional difference would be between a loving person or an all-loving person. Because definition like powerful, if you attach all-powerful, that's a clear change in the. That's a clear change in adjective. Knowing can become all-knowing, and that's a very clear definition change. But what's the difference between a very loving person and an all-loving person?
I don't know whether we need to reduce this to a semantic argument because I still don't understand what your point is, but I'll answer the question as best I can. I think that you can be a very loving person, you can love your partner, you can love your children, you can love your family. That would be a loving person. An all-loving person is someone that loves all of humanity equally. I suggest that is probably the best way of answering it. And God,
I got one even better.
Is one, but I know. Hang on. Before we go on, I'm very curious to know what the caller's position is himself. What do you actually believe?
I'm an atheist, or more specifically, a agnostic deist that follows Buddhist precepts. Although most of those words are just to make theists in the room calm down.
Well, it confuses me. Someone else on the panel, I'm sure, has comments or questions.
Well, my thing is, like, the Christian guy in particular has conditional love. And to say that a being is all-loving would be a contradiction to that term. So, like, for instance, if an all-loving God, a God that was truly all-loving, would not have any type of contingents on what you do or what you believe, he or she, it is going to love you anyway. So as a non-believer, I'm not convinced, based on empirical evidence, he or she, it knows this and is going to love me anyway. There isn't going to be a punishment for me not to choose to worship this thing. So that, for me, would be the biggest difference between a conditional loving God and an all-loving God.
That's a very good point.
Also, an important distinction to be made between all-loving and omnibenevolence, in that you might wish to do good things for everybody, but not necessarily love all of those people or love them at all times. What's going on over there? And then that's why I turned it off, because I knew you were going to push the button. I forgot what the distinction I was drawing was. All-loving. You can be all-loving, but not wish to always do good things for people all the time. There might be a loving reason why suffering would be acceptable. So those things we distinguished. I have to admit that neither of those issues I find are really that energizing for me, because it's one thing to kind of sit around and try to divine the nature of God. When you believe there is one and you want to divine the nature of that real extant God. But it becomes a little, silly and academic if you try to divine the nature of a God you don't believe in. Basically, you need the apologists to come in and say, well, this is my understanding of the character of God. And then you need to ask them questions and find out what they think the character of God is. So.
Well, to me, it's silly, and here's where I personally stand on any concept of any deity. A deity, in my mind, would have the three qualities: omnipresence, omnipotence, and omnipresence, omnipotence, and I'm forgetting one. Shit.
Omnibenevolence.
All knowing.
Not necessarily. It was another one.
Omnipotence, omniscience, omnipresence.
There we go. All powerful, all knowing, and everywhere.
Yeah.
Possibly, and that's debatable, and that's kind of what I wanted to talk about. Is that how a being of that magnitude we can't even fathom. We can reference it because we would like to think something like that exists, but how would we even begin to consider what this being is capable of, what it's made of, what it wants, what it thinks? Why do we assume that it is or it possesses these anthropomorphic qualities? A lot of the qualities that this being is said to have are human qualities and are personality defects at that. Why would a being so powerful that it knows no limit, it can do whatever it wants with impunity, want anything? Why would it love anything?
I responded in this way. If there was a God and his characteristics were not as presented by most of his followers, namely that he was not omnibenevolent and was actually, as it says in the Bible, a jealous God, then a lot more of what happens makes sense. This God is just playing with us, and causing traumas, famines, disasters, tsunamis, volcanoes, earthquakes, and whatever, and just sitting back having a good giggle. He's dark matters God. Yeah, why couldn't such a God exist? Well, apart from the fact that there's no evidence, in the same way there's no evidence for the all-loving God. But if God had a bad temper, who got hungover, woke up in a moody way, I thought, fuck this, I'm pissed off with this experiment, I'm doing, oh, fuck it, let's throw another earthquake at them and see what they do, what's that? See whether they still believe it. That would all make sense. But the problem I have is with people who tell me that God is all-loving and all-powerful. It cannot be correct, because an all-powerful, all-loving God would not allow the suffering that so many of our fellow human beings go through all the time.
I thought of an exception. With the way you were describing things, made me perfectly think of a game of the classic Sim City, and it's all loving because that keeps the god entertained by the game and keeps him from clicking that X and closing the game.
So yeah, he's all loving because he's not just finishing his off. But
I love you, so I'm going to keep as much of you around as I can before I get bored.
He's pressed that button once and has also threatened that he will do it again. He's flooded, committed global genocide. So that's pretty much pressing the button. And he's threatened to do it again. And not only is he threatened to do it, all his followers are waiting with desperation for the time when he does do it. This is, again, it's something about...
No. I hear what
I cannot understand why they are so desperate for the end of the world.
Well, no, and coming back to what you said about God, I know my internet dropped out, so I missed part of the discussion, but my thought would be if I die, I'm like presented at the white throne for judgment, and I was told, like, Ben, you were shown a chick track. You are without excuse. My first comeback would be, look at the world. Was that the best you could do?
I used to toy around with the idea during my deconversion what I would actually say, and this is when the indoctrination was kicking in and when I really started to get pissed off, is that I've been trained into believing a scenario like that would happen. But why would that ever need to happen? Why would anyone ever go before a deity that already knows everything? This being already knows who you are, and what you're going to do. It makes everything that we say and do now utterly worthless, because there is no surprise to a god. This
is maybe an interesting way to end the program, which I'm going to do very shortly. But what people would say at the pearly gates, and I think the two answers we've had so far have been absolutely fantastic. Why do you believe in me? You know everything. You know. Great answer.
I will think I'll go with that answer, unless someone's got a better one.
Was it Burton Russell that said evidence, lack of, whatever? Hosh, you're meeting, I think, according to some interpretations, you meet St. Paul at the pearly gates. What would you say to him?
Me personally, or who are you talking to?
Hey.
Sorry, I was talking to Hosh. But
First, let me make sure I know this. Is St. Paul supposed to be an angel, or is he God?
I think you've got to get past St. Paul at the pearly gates before you get to God, but who knows? I mean, it's all make-believe anyway. But just play along with my game.
So I see God is leaving up his no entry up to his
Yeah, you've got to get
account.
through some sort of process before you get to God, I think.
Well, if I met Saint John at the gate, is that right, John?
Paul, I think.
Saint Paul.
Don't quote me on this. You've got to get through as saint. What does it
It's
matter?
Peter. It's Peter,
Oh,
but
I'm
maybe
sorry.
Peter has the day off. Paul has to fill in when Peter's got bowling, whatever. Go ahead.
All right. So if I met God's accountant at the gate, I would ask politely to be let in, so to be given audience with the big man upstairs.
Okay, and once you got there,
Okay. If I did get to him, I would. I suppose I would ask, what the hell? Your divine
Okay.
message is flooded with other errant messages. Your admission into heaven is blind submission, when simple logic would tell you that almost none of them could possibly be true. And you're great, and you started playing the hiding game for about 2,000 years now, ever since we accurately started recording history. There's a lot of things I could say with what the hell.
I'd imagine you'd have a very Canadian, placid conversation with the good Lord.
I think there are two responses there. The first, what the hell? Oh, it's that way. Go ahead. And second, and where was I? Dude, I was Brosama bin Laden. You just couldn't find me.
Hog tie.
Yeah, I don't know. This is a question that used to fascinate me, and I not to be boring here, but I kind of lost interest in it as soon as I realized that whenever you talk to a believer, you have to, you're not really bringing in your own views about it. You need to understand what their view is and kind of react to that. But I'm sorry, I got nothing clever to say on it, because that to me takes the cake when you say that. Like, why would you have to answer any questions at the pearly gates? Why do you have to explain anything? You're supposed to be omniscient. So I don't know. I wish I had something funnier to say, but
Can I give you one? Can I give you another one I thought of?
Please.
Dude, I donated blood. I thought that's all I had to do.
You didn't read the book. But there again, the book
Wait,
didn't make sense. So you
the
didn't know
Jehovah's
what to do.
Witnesses were right. Darn it, darn it, darn it.
On that bombshell, I think we will draw it to a close. But before I do so, there is one announcement I do want to make, and that is that there will be another MSF, Médecins Sans Frontières, and every time I say that, I get hate messages saying your pronunciation is so awful. But hey, what the hell? I'll get Hogtie to do it at the moment, because Canadians are French, aren't they? Doctors Without Borders event. It will be taking place over the weekend of the 6th and 7th of September. As in previous years, it will take the form of a 24-hour internet show, starting at 4 p.m. British summer time in this country. But don't worry, all details will be published underneath future videos and also on our website, www.magicsandwichshow.com. But please, if you are interested in supporting that event, do get back to me. If you would like to see certain people on the show, get back to me with suggestions. I can tell you that already we've got, obviously, Aaron, he's going to be involved. We've got Lisa, we've got
I may be able to
we've
attend.
got Skeptic Fence Show, we've got Octopus, and other people lined up who I can't remember. So do look out for that, as I'll hopefully get a page up on the Magic Sandwich Show website in due course. But that, as I say, will be taking place over the weekend of the 6th and 7th of September. So please support that. Advertise it with us. You can do whatever you can to promote the event. And on that note, I've said everything that I want to. Who else wants to say a word? Dragnet keeps popping up in my window. Anyone want to say a final word before I stop the show?
I'm just going to quote Raw in the comments: "Repent, repent, repent."
Okay. Sound advice, I'm sure. Ben, final comments.
I want to say thank you for having me on. I enjoy the show a lot. I hope to call in more frequently. I will be listening in for the Doctors Without Borders charity.
Thank you very much. Hogtie, final words.
And yet another fun show. I will say I'm happy that we did at least a little bit, and perhaps accidentally and incidentally, managed to remember on the show that not all Christians are this sort of amorphous blob. That, you know, you've got the ones that are, you know, brainwashing their kids and speaking in tongues, and you got those that are handling snakes, and you got those like Matthew Bell who'll come in and actually answer questions and have a conversation with you, and you got people in the comment section screaming "repent." So it's a fun, wacky, diverse group. Hopefully they'll be more inclined to call in and engage us and have something to react to.
And hopefully that will happen in 2 weeks' time. The date of which I can't tell you now, but it's 2 weeks' time. So we'll see you then. Thank you very much for all those that have contributed, all those that have commented, all those that are watching or will watch when this is on YouTube. Thank you very much indeed. See you in 2 weeks' time. Good night.